Hi, welcome to Code with Z. In today's video, we gotta go from this array that we have here to this array here. And the only difference is that this array that we have here at the bottom is sorted. Why are we doing this? Because that's what LeetCode 75 sort colors is asking us to do. As you can see, it says, given an array called numbers with n objects colored red, white, or blue, sort them in place so the objects of the same color are adjacent, with the colors in the order red, white, and blue. And it says we will use the integers 0, 1, and 2 to represent the color red, white, and blue. And as you can see, it says we should sort from red to white and blue. So from 0 to 1 to 2. So we basically can just ignore all of these number stuff and just sort our array, and that's going to give us the correct answer, because if we want to sort it in the order of red, white, and blue, that should be 0, 1, 2. So you have 0, 1, and 2 in a non-sorted array like this one that we have here, and we gotta sort it, but it says that we must solve this problem without using the library's sort function, obviously. So now let's see how you can actually solve this in an efficient way. Now let me make this smaller a little bit, and then for sorting this array that we have here, we're gonna use count sort, and I'm gonna show you how it works. It's really simple and it's really good to solve this problem because we only have three numbers. We only have 0, 1, or 2, right? So it's going to be really easy and it's going to be really efficient and simple as well. In count sort, we only need to define an array called count, for example, and this has three numbers inside of it. Why three numbers inside of it? Because these numbers are representing our zeros, our ones, and twos. So how many ones do we have? How many twos do we have? How many, zeros do we have? So this is why we initialize it to 0, because in the beginning, we don't know how many zeros or ones or twos we have. After we've initialized count, we're going to loop through our numbers array to see how many of each numbers do we have. For example, we're going to loop through our array. We're going to start from 2, and we're going to be like, all right, we have 2, so let's add 1 to the count of 2. So now we have 1, 2, and then we're going to be like, okay, let's move on. Oh, we have 0, let's add 1 here, because that means we have at least one occurrence of 0, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Oh, another 2, all right, let's add it to here. And then we're going to move on to 1. Okay, we have a 1. Let's update this value here. And now we know there's one occurrence of the number 1. Let's keep on moving. Oh, we have another one. Let's update this. And then we have another 0. Let's update this as well. Awesome, we're done. Now we know that we have 2 occurrences of the number 0, 2 occurrences of the number 1, 2 occurrences of the number 2. Now that we have this, we're going to loop through this numbers array that we have here by the amount of count that we have. Now, what does that mean? Well, the first time we're going to be like, all right, we're going to loop through our array count rounds. Currently count is 2, so we're going to loop through this for 2 rounds, and we're going to be like, each time when we loop, because we know this is representing the amount of zeros that should be inside of our array, we're going to make the current number into 0 like this. So we're going to be like, all right, we have 2, let's make it into 0. Now we can move on to the next one because we can actually loop for 2 rounds. So we can do this for 1 more round. We're going to get here and we're going to turn this into 0 like so. We don't care if it was 0 already or not. And then we're going to be like, all right, we've finished our 2 rounds. Then we're going to move on to this one. We're going to be like, okay, we're going to loop through our numbers for 2 rounds as well, like so. And this time we're going to convert the numbers into ones, because this is representing the occurrences of 1 that we have inside of our array. So we turn this into 1, then we're going to move on to this one, and we're going to turn this into 1, and then we're going to be done with this one. And we're going to start with this, and we're going to loop for another 2 rounds, like so. But this time, each time we see a number, we're going to convert it into 2. Like so. So we're going to convert this into 2, and we're going to convert this into 2. And we're done. And would you look at that? Now we have a sorted array. Believe it or not, that's going to be it. Now let's code this in the simplest way possible. Alrighty, let's code this together. So the first thing that we need to do is to define our count array, just like we saw on the slides. And this is going to be equal to this array that we have here. Each number is representing the number of occurrences of 0, 1, and 2. Then we need to loop through our array that we were given. So we're going to define a for loop. We're going to say for let I being equal to 0, and we want to keep on looping as long as I is smaller or equal to nums.length minus 1, because this is 0 index, and I++, and then we're going to enter this for loop. Here we're going to say we should update these numbers that we have here based on the occurrences of 0, 1, or 2. So we're going to say count nums at the index of I. So for example, if nums at the index of I is 2, that's going to make this be equal to this position here. Or for example, if nums at the index of I is 0, that's going to make it to point to this position, because this position has the index of 0. And this should be equal to, so each time when we have this, we need to increment it. So we're going to increment it by 1, like so. After we're done with this, our count has been updated, and then we need to loop through our array again and update our numbers. For doing this, we need to know, for example, for how many rounds we should loop through our numbers array that was given to us. based the amount of values we have inside here after this is updated. So we're gonna say for let I being equal to 0, and we want to keep on looping as long as I is smaller than count at the index of 0. I'm going to explain this in a bit in I++. So basically, what this for loop is doing is that we're gonna loop through our array for count at the index of 0 times. And this is representing the number of zeros we have. So for example, in the slides, we saw that we were looping through our array for 2 rounds because this number after it was updated was 2. So this is what we're doing. We're getting the number that represents the number of occurrences of 0 that we have, and we're gonna loop through our array for that many rounds. And when we do that, we need to update the numbers, right? So we should say numbers at the index of something should be equal to 0. Now this something here should be actually a variable that we defined like so, and you're gonna see why in literally 10 seconds. So we're gonna say index plus plus, don't worry, I'm gonna explain this in a second. We're gonna have another loop and you're gonna see why all of this works, so don't worry. For let I being equal to 0, this time we wanna make sure we loop through our array for count at the index of 1 times, and we wanna increment I on each round. And here, this time we're gonna say nums at index plus plus should be equal to 1. Now, let's compare these together and see what's going on. As you can see, we defined this index that starts from 0, and we're gonna loop through our array that we were given for count at the index of 0 times, and we're gonna fill those numbers with 0. Then after this, we need to know where we should start from to fill the rest of the numbers with 1s, and then later on, 2s. As you can see, in this array, we're gonna keep on looping by the amount of occurrences of the number 1 that we have, and we're gonna update those values to 1s. So we can't just say start from the index of 0 because the index of 0 has been already updated and we don't want to overwrite this, right? So we need to make sure that we keep a reference to the index that we have. That's what we're doing here. We're gonna be like, all right, this is gonna start from 0. We're gonna update the value at the index of 0, and we're gonna increment it after we're done. And this is gonna help us to actually have an updated index. We can instead just do this. We can be like index equal to 0 and then index plus plus, but this is not really clean. So we're just gonna do this like so. Now this is doing the same thing for the number 1, and we need to do the same thing for the number 2. So we're gonna say for let I being equal to 0, we wanna keep on looping as long as I is smaller than count at the index of 2, and this is going to tell us how many rounds we should actually loop through our array to update the value into 2. So we're going to say nums at index plus plus should be equal to 2, like so. And we don't need to return anything. As you can see, it says we shouldn't return anything, and we're going to be done. And now let's run it and see if we're going to pass all of the test cases. Moment of truth, and yep. Now let's submit it and see if we're going to get accepted. Drum roll, please. Just kidding. Let's see, and yep, that's awesome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep on coding.